So what's up, YouTube? This is D from Brooklyn, and I had every intent of making a completely different video today, but for all it's worth, I found a leak in the aquarium. This is wet. I'm really peeved because I had a video already made for this system. I had this tank in my house for quite some time, and as it would come to find out, it has a leak. You see where I put the tape here, the water level is here, and now the water level is there. So I'm going to take this opportunity to show you a little bit about aquascaping. Yeah, the aquascaping, something that it in terms it kind of intimidates people, but it's very simple. It's very easy to master, and you don't have to be a Rembrandt or a Picasso or aquascaping professional to create a nice aquascape in your tank. So I hope this video helps you out. So let's get into it. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. And if you're not already a subscriber, do me a solid. Click that subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, because sharing is caring, and it just gives me the incentive to make more videos to help my fellow hobbyists get started here. So before we get into the actual work, let me just explain what aquascaping is. It's a term that can be pretty intimidating to people first starting out because they think you have to like copy these great aquascapers that they see on YouTube. And just for our purposes, aquascaping is just the art of arranging plants, rocks, gravel, and decoration in a pleasing manner. And that, when you say pleasing, is different for everybody. So as long as you're happy with the outcome and it suits the needs of the animals that you're going to house in the system, it's fine. You can always go back and change things later. So without saying any more, let me go into what items you're going to need to aquascape what may be your first or replacement tank. So it may be obvious, but may not be obvious to some. First and foremost, you're going to need a tank. And of course, the second thing that you are going to need is some kind of substrate. Since I already have plants and gravel in the tank that I'm going to replacing, most of that is going to come from that tank. So let's just get a little bit more just in case. Now, you don't have to use an expensive gravel or substrate. I'm using just some leftover fluorite red, which is a substrate made especially for plants, because I already had it in the tank that I'm taking down because of the leak. So I'm going to use the remainder if I need extra or if I need enough to cover the plant. So you want to choose your substrate and your decorations based on what kind of plants and animals you're going to have. This tank is going to have some very small killifish and maybe a few shrimp that I've been wanting to breed out from a larger tank. So that's what I'm going to go with. Nice. Next, you're going to need some decor. You're going to need some decorations. This can be artificial. It can be real plants, fake plants. When you're first starting out, I would always advise going with a few artificial plants, especially if this is your first tank or you're not sure what kind of fish you're going to have in there. Some fish chew on plants depending on the type. We're going with a nano system. I'm going to have some plants that I have in the other tank, but I have no shortage of artificial plants. So this is all a matter of what you like. What some people do is they look at pictures in magazines, tropical fish hobbyists, or a cichlid monthly, and they can base their decorations on tanks that they see. But basically, I'm going to have a pretty simple tank. I'm debating whether I'm just going to use the sponge filter. I'll probably move the sponge filter from the existing tank to this one, which actually brings me to another point. When you're starting a new tank, you're going to have what is called a cycle. A cycle is the creation of bacteria presence in your tank, which convert ammonia into a less toxic nitrate. Now, when you have an existing tank, or if you have a friend with an existing tank, the best way to help your cycle come along is using a little gravel or filter media from an existing tank into your system, or you can even take a piece of the filter sponge. Some tanks have what we call a filter cartridge. Maybe I can show you one real quick. So this is a filter foam cartridge from a much larger Aqua Clear 110. What you can do is cut a small piece of this off and put it in your tank, and the bacteria that are living on an existing system will greatly help populate a new system. Of course, this is a new one, so we wouldn't be using this, and this is for a much larger tank. So in order to help your tank get settled, you would be very, very inclined to get a friend's like old filter cartridge, or just to get some old media and add it to your tank. You will definitely thank me later for it. Now, this part may not apply to most of you because most of you will be setting up your tank from scratch, but this is the most tedious part that I cannot really stand. And since this tank currently has shrimp in it, the difficult task of catching the shrimp and pulling out the decorations. So I won't bore you to death with trying to catch these shrimp, but we'll just fast forward through this part so that I can pull the decorations out and get them ready for the next tank. So let's do that. Well, really great news. I actually captured the shrimp without going completely ballistic. And I've started taking all the plants and things out of the tank. You can look down here in the old bucket here. You can see I have the shrimp in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reuse this water, since the water in this tank is relative. So I got all the shrimp out of the tank, and you can see the water is a little bit disturbed, but not really murky or dirty. The water's only been in here a week or so. It's relatively clean. If it wasn't for this leak, I would have loved this tank, but being as it may, I'm just going to have to do what I got to do and take everything out. So let me show you, for those of you transferring a leaking tank, how I do that. And basically all I'm going to do is get a little screen, like a spaghetti screen, not one that I cook with, but one that I use in the backyard. Get it from the dollar store, or you can even use a net. And I'll take my trusty siphon hose here and have the water come out of the tank into the bucket, but into some mesh, some polyfill, some cotton mesh, which will catch all the particulate and make this water reusable, so you don't have to go with completely fresh water. If you're not worried about the cycle, you can of course just go with completely new water. But I'm going to reuse this since I've been using it for shrimp and the water's already been cycled. So let's get that underway. So this is a little trick that I picked up a while ago. It's a little trick that most of us use in the saltwater hobby when we're changing water or reusing water, especially in the saltwater or brackish water. When you have that water just the way you want it, and you want to reuse it or filter it out, try to clean your tank a little bit, especially if you're just gravel siphoning. What I do is I get an old hanger, lay it across a bucket, I get a net, fill it with some filter floss, and I just siphon the water out from the tank into that net. And what that does is that captures all the particulate and all the gook that's in the water and keeps my parameters the same. So you can see that the net is held into place by the hangers that are wired under the bucket. You can do this with a spaghetti strainer, like I mentioned earlier. You can just get one of those from Dollar Tree. Of course, one that your wife is going to kill you for, that you use for cooking. But as you look down, you'll notice that the water is very clear. Look at that. It actually just picked up a whole wad of whatever that was, grass or whatever, that I would have had right in the water. And it captures it right in the net. And what the end result is completely reusable water, as you can see down there. And it's going to go right into the next 5-gallon build. So I'll fast forward through this and we'll go to the next phase. So no, I know this may seem like a really trivial thing to tell people, but I feel that I need to tell you. When you buy a tank from the store, you need to rinse it out. You don't know where those tanks have been stored. You don't want to use chemicals. Just plain old-fashioned tap water is fine. Rinse it out. And especially since we had that issue with the last tank having a leak in it, you want to take this opportunity to make sure that there's no leaks, no cracks. Sometimes it could be on the bottom. You know, these guys handle these tanks pretty rough, you know, so you want to take this opportunity to clean the tank out, give it a good rinsing, before you put anything in it. Now, since we're doing this and I'm showing you some tips and shortcuts, let me give you another little tip that I've used over the years that helped expedite the process. Now, if you have either tank water already done or you're changing water from another tank, what you want to do is fill up your existing tank, and I could do it because this is only a 5.5 gallon. You want to fill a little bit of water, just enough to cover the bottom. And what this is going to do is this going to help you lay out your gravel. It's going to lay it out. If you have any remaining dust in the tank, you'll see it. It'll settle out. And I just found that this has been kind of a help in aquascaping, especially if you're putting plants. You don't want to put the plants in dry substrate. So you can put the gravel in and then add water. I like to do it the other way around. I've already gotten my, get some light in there, my planted substrate, which I've rinsed a little bit more, taken from the other tank, and I'm going to add that in there. I rinsed this already, but I'm expecting it to have a little bit of dust because this planted substrate is meant to hold sediment. So 9 out of 10, you're always going to have a little bit of sediment in it. But for the most part, the water's pretty clear. You can see it just because looking down, it settles out pretty clear. So this is the time when I want to lay out my aquascape. I want to see what decorations I'm going to put in there. I want to get an idea of where they're going to be and whether I need more gravel or not, since this isn't the same shape as the last tank, or since you're not sure where everything is going to lay out in the end. A little bit of water, it's still light to carry. Of course, you don't want to make it too heavy to carry, but fill it up with a little bit. You see it's nice and clear, so I know that I did a good job rinsing it. And I can put the first pieces of my decor in the tank. So let's get those. Add a few finishing touches here. Just some river rocks. Move that around. Move these around here a little bit. Flat area in the front. And we got good news. The main piece did not float. Actually, this branch is floating, but not a big deal. For the most part, everything's coming out. It's going to clear up nicely. Right now, I have the sponge filter in there, but I'm going to put a little hang on the back filter in there, which would do the job greatly. If you're going to set this up, which you are, you're going to be better off with a hang on the back filter than starting out with a sponge filter. The reason I'm starting out with a sponge filter is because it has the bacteria from the other tank already on the sponge, and it will aid in preventing the tank from recycling. So that is why I have a sponge filter in the back. You'll see the little bubbles coming up very slowly, but I do intend on putting a very small hang on the back filter on there, and that'll be the final piece of the puzzle. This window is usually blocked up, but it's going to get direct sunlight. I've already taken that into account. These plants will grow very quickly. I'm not going to use CO2 or anything like that in this tank, and it should just look really nice in the end. So let me just get the filter, put that on, and we'll almost be done. So everybody, here we go with what is to be the finished product. I don't think it looks that bad at all. I decided to go with a surface skimmer in lieu of the filter that I was going to put on there, only because it was an old filter that was cutting on and off. The impeller was bad, so I'll see how this one goes. But as you can see, you can create a beautiful tank with artificial plants as well as real plants. As this clears up, you will get a much better look at it. But since this is in the window, I'm pretty sure that they'll get a lot of light. The plants should do well. For the most part, I'm not really worried about them. Like, you know, the Rotala is not a what they would call a beginner plant. The Val is a really nice plant. I have it in the tank right next to it, and you can see it has grown substantially, like all across the top of that tank. I have dwarf fishes in there. and shrimp in there as well. So I hope to trim that up a bit and just watch this one grow. But I just wanted to make this video to show you that words can be intimidating. Words like aquascape and design and layout and cycle are just tools to accomplish what you're setting out to accomplish, and that is to create a self-sufficient habitat for your fish and shrimp. So I hope this video helps you out, and I hope you guys don't have leaky tanks like I do. It's so funny. I had that tank for probably a year sitting inside my house. I decided to use it in a leak. So what are you going to do? It happens to us all. But I think I actually benefited because now I'll have two tanks that kind of mimic each other, same size. It looks better in the window, you know. Nice LED light, really simple, not anything too extravagant, and it's something that you can do on a budget. This is just a 5.5 gallon tank. This is an Odyssey surface skimmer, and I have my sponge filter in the back, creating, you know, moving over the biological filtration from the old tank. So that is a good tip. If you have old media, recycle new tanks with old media. That always helps clear things up. You can also use bacteria in a bottle. I'm not 100% a fan of it, but I do use it in my saltwater tanks from time to time. To help you jumpstart the cycling process. I use all of the old water that I had in the tank before, so I'm not really worried about shocking the shrimp. I'll probably let this clear up a while before I put them back in this tank. Water parameters are the same because they are the same water. It is the same water, rather. So this is D. I hope you learned something from this. If not, once again, leave comments below. If you're not already a member of the Brooklyn Aquarium Society, which I'm a member of in Brooklyn, you can go to basny.org for events, more ticket, membership type things, events going on. We have auctions, fish. We're redoing our Breeders Awards program, so those of you that breed fish will be able to bring in your fish for review, and all of this information is on the website. So until next time, this is D signing out, keeping my sanity by keeping it simple and keeping fish. What a fun hobby. See ya.